Welcome to Survivor Stories. I'm Dasa Ben Ami, a responder.
So, my name is Miguel Caldera.
I'm Sophie.
My name's Colonel, and I'm 13 years old.
I am Kesha McDermott.
Been with them now for, I guess 2 years. We have big plans. We can do so much to help. Maybe, just maybe, we can rebuild enough to be okay.
These days, I'm important. People treat me like I matter because, well, there's so few of us. We can't afford to think otherwise.
The responders are a joke. Nobody helps anybody anymore. Get a grip. If you're not a total idiot, you'll get out of this dump before the responders get you killed. Leave the sick behind. We're better off. Trust me. Whiny babies can stay here and play make-believe, but anyone with half a brain will go up to the mountains and drop the dead weight.
I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. The bombs and the messed up people and the cows with 2 heads, all of it. I was bad. Just bad. I cheated on my spelling test. I kicked Chip Wilkins in the shins until he cried. I pushed Rosie McCloy down the stairs. I cut holes in the bottom of all the gym shorts, and I put glue in the mashed potatoes in the cafeteria. I told Harold Newell to eat 10 dead flies a day in order to grow muscles, and I put Nuka-Cola in the rat cage water bottles at the pet store, and, I just wanted to say I'm sorry about everything. Because my dad said if I wasn't this way, the bad things wouldn't happen.
I will teach folks how to properly boil water. And I did. The world is getting better, but slowly. We need to make sure it doesn't relapse, too. It's going to take time and care, that's all.
There's a recent, now-deleted thread on the Fallout subreddit, which asks the question if the series had themes of anti-capitalism. 2 things from it stood out to me. 1, the surprising amount of people who said no, and 2, one of the top comments, which suggested that, quote, the communists were hardly any better, so the series is actually misanthropic. This threw me something for a loop, let alone how so many people agreed with it. For starters, misanthropy is a general distaste and pessimism for humanity at large. It usually stems from either puritanical religious beliefs about original sin and man's corrupted nature as a result, or as a method of justifying whatever hierarchies happen to exist at the time. Why are so many people under capitalism poor or in debt? Why do the serfs have to toil for their lords? Why are certain types of people pressed into slavery? Well, because they deserve it. I mean, if they didn't deserve it, that would raise a lot of really uncomfortable follow-up questions. And so the easiest response is to simply invent whatever myths you need to avoid those questions in their entirety, be it meritocracy, the divine right of kings, or a bunch of racist pseudoscience. Why do these things happen? Because they deserve it. No follow-ups. Moving on. The Fallout series is, at best, ambivalent, unorganized religion, and pretty clearly does not care for hierarchies, or their myths about kings, capitalists, and racial supremacy. So where's the disconnect? What does the series actually believe about humanity? Well, we're actually in a pretty advantageous position for this. Usually these sorts of arguments would come down to things like themes and framing, and stuff that's subjective. But the Fallout series will just oftentimes straight up tell you what it considers morally right and wrong through its karma system. It wears its ethics on its sleeve. So let's take an example. The Water Beggars of Fallout 3. They're quite dirty, a bit pathetic, and sit around all day asking for handouts. If the series disliked humanity, they'd be among the first to the chopping block. However, that's not how they're treated. Giving them water grants the player karma. The game considers it as a morally good act. This is par for the course, actually. Support to the disadvantaged is routinely framed as good, be they water beggars, had their skin irradiated off, or, worst of all, are annoying children. Only once someone is a threat to others does the game excuse harming them. Otherwise, they are all worthwhile. So, why? If the series is favorable to people as a baseline default, it must be because it finds some inherent value to humanity. And that's not misanthropy. That's the exact opposite. So, how did the matter get flipped? What stands out to me the most is that the original comment isn't describing humanity. It's describing political systems. Not even ideologies, just systems. The series certainly throws some harsh punches at nearly every faction, but there's a distinction between factions and humanity itself. It's the old categorical mistake. Show me the university. We can see this in action by taking a look at the Republic of Dave as a little microcosm. Dave uses the aesthetics of a liberal democracy while actually holding authoritarian policies to stay in power, similar to pre-war USA.
I am Dave, President of the Republic of Dave. You will address me as Mr. President, or I will have you executed.
Alright, so quick note. The stated values and aesthetics of politics can sometimes be vastly different from the actual ideology and policy that those political groups put forward. Now, that's going to be more developed in its own video about some of the weird writing going into 76. For now, just know that politicians and political commentators sometimes lie about things, so you shouldn't take them at face value. Yes, even the ones that tell you what you want to hear. Especially the ones that tell you what you want to hear. Oh no!
There's other organizations out there, and in time, I'm sure they're going to spoon-feed you their own patented form of bullshit. Ignore the verbiage and look at what they're doing, what they're asking you to do, what sort of world they'd have you build, and how they're going to pay for it.
The structures of the Republic are designed to empower Dave and keep him that way. Except, reading from the Fallout 3 guide here, yes, I know this copy looks like shit, but that's just Wasteland authenticity. Rosie is possibly the most disconnected citizen of the Republic of Dave. She is extremely intelligent and has many suggestions about how the Republic could be safer, happier, and more efficient. She'll occasionally speak up, but Dave quickly reminds her where the power of the Republic truly lies. Now we're getting interesting. Rosie is virtuous. She's clever and is willing to use her abilities to help other people's well-beings. But she's stopped by the existing power structures. You can see a similar effect in reverse with the East Coast Brotherhood of Steel. Elder Lyons enacts outreach to help the local populace of the capital Wasteland, and for once, the Brotherhood is not a bunch of isolationist technocrats, but an actual force for good. Until Fallout 4 rolls around and they dive headlong into being a genocidal occupying army under Maxon.
Guessing that diplomacy isn't on Elder Maxon's mind.
With a show of force that large, I fear for the innocent of the Commonwealth.
What's the matter? Don't like kicking in the door? Don't worry. You'll fall in line with our tactics sooner or later.
This is because though Lyons was a much more moral leader, the structure of the Brotherhood did not change. The king is dead. Long live the king. The root of the problem isn't people. It's systems. Now, it's easy to go, aha, but those systems were made by people. Therefore, people are still at fault. And, yeah, if you want to be a pedantic dick about it, but to what extent is that true? Let's take a look at Caesar's Legion as an example. They're patriarchal, and I mean that in the most blunt and literal way possible. Women are treated as subhuman, and anyone who likes the Legion as anything other than antagonists should be kicked directly in the nuts. This leaves an interesting problem because those women must make up at least half the population of the Legion. Probably more, given how many men are conscripted and get mulched. And it's safe to assume that these women have less than favorable opinions on the situation. No matter how you cut it, a majority of people under the Legion are going to dislike how it is run. And yet, it persists. It's not a reflection of humanity. It's a reflection of the imbalances of power.
Good, bad. The guy with the gun makes the rules.
Hierarchies, by their nature, don't actually need that many people on board with them to continue to operate. They just need systems of enforcement, namely violence, knowledge, and charisma. This is often the case in real life, where things can get extremely lopsided. But even with those extreme imbalances of power, so long as the systems are in place, they still seem innate, natural, almost. Until suddenly, and almost always violently, they aren't. Again, you can find parallels throughout the Fallout series. As I said, the series doesn't have much goodwill for these systems of power, but even so, there's more going on here. Notice how the comment seemed to lay things out in a manner where the unfettered capitalism of pre-war America and whatever was going on with pre-war China, unclear but almost certainly bad, were the be-all end-all. I'm reminded of the theory of capitalist realism from Mark Fisher. No relation. Probably. He posits that after the fall of the Soviet Union, analogous to the fall of pre-war China for the series, there is only one conclusion. The widespread sense that not only is capitalism the only viable political and economic system, but also that it is now impossible even to imagine a coherent alternative to it. So, in the Fallout series, where capitalism has failed too, and continues to fail, in factions like the NCR, well, that's it. That's everything. Humanity's just doomed to its failure. Because surely there's no alternatives. Right? Earlier, I said that nearly all factions are harshly criticized within the series itself. But I find two escape relatively unscathed. The followers of the apocalypse and the responders. This is where that earlier binary mold of American capitalism and Chinese communism breaks completely. They're neither. They are an unthinkable alternative. Neither has large structures. They operate on a strictly local level, with little to no hierarchy. Wrecker of the Reformed Responders dislikes the title of leader and holds no actual position of formal authority. She's simply influential, and people voluntarily listen. Meanwhile, quote, the followers are a highly decentralized group with limited hierarchy. Any leaders are typically informal and selected naturally based on their deeds, expertise, and organizational skills. Formal structures exist in a limited fashion. Neither uses violence onto itself, but only as a means of defense from more oppressive groups and the general dangers of the wasteland. The backbone of their operation is humanitarian, built on mutual aid.
We care for our fellow man and do everything we can to help humanity. Here in Freeside, we provide food and medical services for those in need.
In fact, the daily quest for the Reformed Responders is called, well, mutual aid.
See? Mutual aid. Everybody wins.
Resources are redistributed regardless of things like money, or nationality, or race, or age, or gender, etc., etc. In fact, you could even say there's a sort of system of distribution where each is given according to their need, while giving in turn according to their ability. Wait a minute.
Pretty funny, though. My grandparents had to go into hiding because people thought they were communists. Now we're all here redistributing the wealth for the good of the community. Ain't that ironic?
So, yeah, If I had to put a label on them, those three main features, the opposition to hierarchy, the redistribution of resources through mutual aid, and nonviolence outside of self-defense, that pretty squarely places them in the anarchist camp, specifically anarcho-communism, or at the very least, a left-wing coalition built around those sorts of ideas. This has been explicitly stated to be the case with the followers. There is one other faction that comes close. For a time, anyways. The Minutemen. Or at least the early Minutemen, before their scale led to bureaucratic rot and leadership becoming disconnected from the general populace.
We're citizen soldiers. The people of the Commonwealth banding together to protect ourselves and decide our own future. That was the original idea, and it was a good one. The Minutemen fell apart because our leaders forgot what we were supposed to stand for.
There's a clear theme between these three. These factions are closer to humanity and better for it. Not just morally, but structurally. The Responders were the final holdout against the Scorched, and the only faction to come back from their fall purely on their ideology instead of stragglers or reinforcements.
I realized that while the Responders themselves didn't make it, the idea could be brought back, and this time, for good.
The NCR's frontier is constantly teetering on collapse, while the followers' decentralized structure is highly adaptive. The Minutemen were highly successful until they got too large and imploded under their own weight and infighting about succession. Again and again, concentrated power leads to power struggles, be it Autumn and Eden, Caesar and Graham, Coulter and Gage, or Clinton Hollis. It is a destabilizing force. The nonviolent, those who don't seek to struggle for power, Rosie going against Dave, or Piper against McDonough, or Major Kieran against the commanding officers of the NCR Supply Corps, they are stymied by structural blockages and disallowed any influence.
Of course, in my experience, if you want to do real good, playing nice only gets you so far.
The result of hierarchical structures is that power is left exclusively to those who want power. That is the failure present throughout the series. Humanity is not the problem. Authority and hierarchy are the problems. Humanity is the solution.
Remember, cooperation is the key to success. There's no I in nuclear wasteland. Employ these proven techniques and your camaraderie will blossom. In fact, you might just make some lifelong friends.